fog coiled like a serpent through Gilded Square, muffling the chime of midnight from St. Botolph's. In the amber glow of number 14, Sir Reginald Blount slumped across his mahogany desk, a silver letter opener buried to the hilt beneath his left shoulder blade. Blood pooled, thick and glossy, over diplomatic seals. The French windows stood ajar. Frost glittered on the sill. No footprints marred the virgin snow of the terrace. Only one object lay askew, crimson carnation, crushed beneath the corpse's gloved hand. Somewhere in the house, a clock struck the quarter, and Hercule Poirot, arriving with Captain Hastings, murmured, "Mon Dieu, the perfect locked room." Chapter 1. The Carnation at Midnight. The fog that night was not merely weather. It was a living thing, thick as wet wool, tasting of coal smoke and river rot. It pressed against the gas lamps of Gilded Square until their halos bled into sickly amber bruises. Somewhere beneath the muffled clop of a lone hansom cab, the clock of St. Botolph without Aldgate tolled 12 slow strokes, each one a funeral knell for the old year sliding into the new. Hercule Poirot stepped from the taxi with the precision of a watchmaker placing a ruby pivot. His patent leather shoes, polished that morning by the incomparable George, found the frozen gravel with a crisp, decisive crunch. The cold bit through his astrakhan collar. But Poirot did not shiver. Cold was merely a sensation. Disorder was the true enemy. Captain Arthur Hastings, pink-cheeked and muffled in a camel hair coat 2 sizes too large for fashion, paid the driver with a generous tip and a murmured apology for the late hour. The cab lurched away, its ruby tail lamp swallowed almost at once by the fog. "Devilish night," Hastings said, teeth chattering. Japp's note said urgent. Sounded like the end of the world. Poirot's moustaches, waxed to rapier points, twitched. When Inspector Japp says urgent, mon ami, it is rarely the end of the world, merely the end of someone in it. They stood before number 14, a Georgian townhouse of impeccable proportion, its Portland stone facade glowing like moonlit bone. Every window blazed electric light, extravagant at this hour, yet the house felt hollow, as though it had exhaled its soul and waited, lungs empty, for the return of breath. The door opened before they knocked. Inspector Japp filled the frame, bowler hat clutched in one fist, the other hand worrying the ends of his walrus moustache. "About time, Mr. Poirot. Thought you'd gone to ground in that blessed flat of yours. Even the hermit crab must emerge when the tide of crime rises," Poirot replied. He stepped inside. The entrance hall smelled of beeswax, hothouse lilies, and something metallic beneath blood, unmistakable to a man who had knelt beside too many bodies bezidaïs in too many elegant rooms. A grandfather clock ticked with ponderous dignity. Its pendulum flashed like a guillotine blade. Japp closed the door. The click of the latch sounded final. "Sir Reginald Blount," he said without preamble. "Ambassador to San Marco. Found 40 minutes ago by the butler. Stabbed through the heart with his own letter opener. No sign of forced entry. French windows open, snow on the terrace untouched. Staff dismissed at 10. Household claims no one in or out." Hastings whistled. "Locked room, locked study," Japp corrected. "Door bolted from the inside, key still in the lock. Windows latched until the butler broke the glass to reach the bolt." Poirot removed his gloves 1 finger at a time. "The temperature, Inspector." 22 degrees inside. Boiler stoked at 9. Outside 10 below. Snow started at 11, stopped at 11:30. Terrace is a blank page. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Then let us read what is written in the negative spaces." They ascended the staircase. Crimson Wilton carpets swallowed their footfalls. Portraits of Blount ancestors' admirals, colonial governors, one cardinal starred down with the incurious gaze of the long dead. At the landing, a marble bust of Disraeli wore a silk scarf someone had draped in jest. The scarf's fringe trembled in the draught from the broken window below. The study door stood ajar. A constable guarded it, helmet tucked beneath his arm, face the colour of porridge. "Easy, lad," Japp muttered. "It's only a corpse." The young man swallowed. "Beg pardon, sir. It's the flower, sir." Poirot entered first. The room was a gentleman's sanctum preserved in amber. Walnut panelling, shelves of calf-bound books, a globe the size of a hogshead, its brass meridian glinting. A fire had burned low. Embers pulsed like a dying heart. The scent here was bergamot, cigar smoke, and the sweet ferrous reek of slaughter. Sir Reginald Blount lay sprawled across his desk, as though he had fallen asleep mid-sentence. His evening dress-white tie, diamond studs remained immaculate, save for the silver letter opener protruding from beneath his left shoulder blade. The blade had entered at a downward angle, driven with surgical force. Blood had sheeted across diplomatic correspondence, blotting wax seals the colour of arterial crimson. One gloved hand still clutched a crimson carnation. Its petals were crushed, as though the dying man had tried to strangle the flower itself. Poirot circled the desk, hands clasped behind his back. He noted, Hastings knelt. "Regimental crest the Lancers, my old lot." Poirot's eyebrow arched. "You recognize the engraving? Initials inside RB from LG Ypres, 1916, but I lost my own links years ago." Japp grunted. "We'll check the staff. Someone's a souvenir hunter." A rustle at the door. Lady Lavinia Blount entered, wrapped in sable despite the overheated room. Her face was a porcelain mask, violet shadows beneath her eyes the colour of winter seas. A diamond brooch, shaped like a dagger, glittered at her throat. "Inspector," she said, voice brittle as spun sugar, "must we endure this spectacle?" Poirot bowed. "Madam, the dead do not choose their stage. Permit me." He lifted the carnation with tweezers. The stem had been snapped cleanly scissors, not fingers. A trace of crimson lipstick stained one petal. "San Marco's national flower," Lady Lavinia murmured. "Reginald wore one every evening." "Superstition." "Superstition," Poirot echoed. "Or signal." Dr. Felix Carstairs followed, medical bag in hand. Steel spectacles flashed as he knelt beside the body. "Death instantaneous. The blade severed the aorta. Time 11 precisely. My watch synchronized with the embassy clock." Poirot noted the doctor's trembling fingers' nicotine stains. A faint tremor. "Morphine?" Miss Verity Shaw, Sir Reginald's secretary, hovered at the threshold. Blonde curls escaped her chignon. Ink stained the cuffs of her dove-grey dress. She clutched a leather-bound ledger as though it were a hymnal. "He was decoding a telegram," she whispered, "from the Foreign Office, marked Lioness. I left him at 10:15. Poirot's gaze flicked to the safe combination dial spun to 0. Open, inside, empty velvet trays where briefing folders should lie. "Curieux," he murmured. "A diplomat dies, his secrets vanish, and a flower bleeds upon his heart." He stooped to the cufflink. Beneath the magnifying lens, a microscopic scratch on the goldfresh. Japp barked orders. Constables fanned out. The butler, a stooped figure named Greaves, recounted the evening with mechanical precision. Poirot listened, head cocked like a blackbird. Then he crossed to the French windows. The terrace beyond was a blank expanse of snow, undisturbed save for the butler's frantic footprints. Yet Poirot knelt beneath the sill, a single droplet of blood, frozen into a ruby bead. "Impossible," Japp muttered. "No tracks." Poirot smiled. "Precisely. The murderer walked where no footprints could remain." He turned to the room. "Observe. The chair overturned toward the door, not the windows. The blow that felled Sir Reginald came from behind, yet the stab from the front. 2 attackers, or one extraordinarily agile." Hastings shivered. "The carnation someone's signature." "Or confession," Poirot said softly. Lady Lavinia swayed. Dr. Carstairs caught her elbow. She flinched from his touch. Verity Shaw's ledger slipped from her fingers. Pages scattered, revealing a pressed flower between the leaves. Another carnation. Older, its petals brown with age. Poirot retrieved it. Inside the stem, a hollow cavity. Once, perhaps, it had held a capsule. Poison? Microfilm? Japp sealed the room. The constables filed out. As Poirot donned his gloves, he paused beside the globe. San Marco was marked with a tiny gold pin. Someone had drawn a circle around it in red ink fresh. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft as forgiveness. The fog retreated, revealing the square skeletal plane trees. Somewhere, a woman's sob echoed, quickly stifled. Poirot lingered at the threshold. His gaze fell upon the carnation's crushed petals. Beneath the topmost layer, a single manicured fingernail painted the same crimson as the flower. He pocketed it with a murmur. The first clue, mes amis, and the first lie. Chapter 2. The cipher in the safe morning arrived like a reluctant witness. Pale, watery light seeping through the fanlight of number 14, turning the fog to mother of pearl. The house had not slept. Constables stamped their feet in the hall. A kettle hissed in the distant kitchen. Somewhere, a woman wept in measured aristocratic sobs. Hercule Poirot descended the staircase with the solemnity of a priest entering the confessional. His green silk dressing gown, imported from Cairo, monogrammed in crimson swirled about his ankles. Captain Hastings followed, hair still tousled, eyes red from a night spent poring over regimental lists in search of the phantom LG. Inspector Japp awaited them in the breakfast room, a mahogany cavern smelling of kippers, toast, and the acrid bite of official worry. A silver salver bore a single object, the decoded telegram, now photographed and transcribed in Japp's laborious copperplate. Poirot poured chocolate from a Sèvres pot, inhaling the steam like incense. "Proceed, Inspector. Enlighten the little grey cells." Japp cleared his throat. "Telegram received at 9:47 p.m. yesterday. San Marco Legation Cipher Blount's personal key. Decoded at the Yard an hour ago." He slid the sheet across the damask cloth. "Lioness betrays pride. Grey returns. 11:15. Hastings frowned. Code names: Lioness, San Marco's royalist faction. Pride, their treasury. But Grey..." Poirot's moustache quivered. "The cufflink. LG Ypres, 1916. Lieutenant Grey, perhaps?" Japp nodded. "Blount served with the 9th Lancers, attached to intelligence. War Office confirms a Lieutenant Lionel Grey missing. Presumed killed, October 16th. Saved Blount's patrol under heavy fire. Recommended for the Victoria Cross. Body never recovered." The door opened. Lady Lavinia Blount entered, wrapped in black velvet, a jet brooch at her throat shaped like a mourning locket. Her eyes were dry now, but the skin around them looked bruised. "Reginald kept a revolver in the desk," she said without greeting. "Colt 32, pearl handle. It's gone." Dr. Felix Carstairs followed, medical bag clutched like a talisman. His spectacles flashed as he poured coffee with unsteady hands. "Sir Reginald suffered nightmare stenches, mud, a man screaming his name. He spoke of Grey often. Guilt, I prescribed bromide." Miss Verity Shaw slipped in last, ledger under her arm, a fresh carnation pinned to her lapel crimson against dove grey. Her fingers trembled as she opened the book. Embassy accounts, £3,000, untraceable. Someone forged Sir Reginald's signature 3 withdrawals, December alone. Poirot sipped his chocolate. The revolver, madame. When did you last see it? Lady Lavinia's gaze flickered. Yesterday noon. Reginald cleaned it himself. Said San Marco's unrest made him nervous. Japp produced a wax envelope. Found this in the safe empty. Velvet indentation matches a small pistol. Poirot examined the safe. A Chubb, combination lock, dial spun to 0. Scratches around the rim fresh, made by a metal tool. He knelt, magnifying glass in hand. A single strand of blonde hair caught in the hinge. "Miss Shaw," he murmured, "you opened the safe last night?" Verity flushed. "At 10:15. Sir Reginald requested the telegram. I locked it again." Poirot twirled the strand between tweezers. Yet the dial was at 0 when the butler arrived. Someone reopened it after death. Hastings leaned over the desk. "The decoded telegram, was it in the safe?" Japp shook his head. "Found beneath the blotter, weighted by the onyx paper knife. Blount's handwriting decoding in progress. He never finished." Poirot requested the original cipher. It arrived in a manila folder, stamped top secret. The text K7 M9P2, Lioness betrays pride. Gray returns, 11:15. Beneath, Blount's pencil notes. Lioness, Stoss Duchessa M. Pride, should arms shipment. Gray, Poirot's eyes gleamed. The Duchessa de Montebianco San Marco's royalist leader. Rumoured Tobe selling weapons to the revolutionaries. Sir Reginald was brokering peace or profit. Lady Lavinia's lips thinned. Reginald was loyal to the crown. Yet £3,000 vanish, Poirot said softly, and a revolver walks away. Loyalty, madame, is sometimes flexible. Dr. Carstairs set down his cup with a clatter. Sir Reginald suffered neuralgia. I prescribed morphine. The embassy dispensary is short. Someone has been helping themselves. Verity's pen scratched across her ledger. I logged every vial. Poirot noted the fresh ink still glossy. At what hour, mademoiselle? 11:30, she said promptly. In the library. Japp's constable entered, dripping melted snow. The revolver, Sir dredged from the fountain, barrel unfired, wrapped in oilskin. Poirot examined it beneath the chandelier. Pearl handle, initials R.B. engraved in florid script. One round missing from the cylinder. Curieux, he murmured. A weapon removed, not used, a threater, a distraction. Hastings produced the cufflink from his pocket. I telephoned the Regimental Museum at dawn. Only 2 pairs issued with that engraving, Blount's and mine. Mine was stolen in 22 Monte Carlo during the peace conference. Poirot turned the link beneath the light. The scratch he had noted last night resolved into a tiny symbol. A lion rampant, San Marco's crest. Someone wishes us to connect war and diplomacy, said. But which war? Lady Lavinia rose abruptly. I must lie down. The smelling salts. Dr. Carstairs followed her out. Verity lingered, arranging papers with nervous precision. Poirot watched her. Mademoiselle, the carnation you wear, where did you obtain it? The conservatory, she said. Sir Reginald grew them. A gift from the Duchessa. Poirot requested a tour. The conservatory lay at the rear, a glass cathedral of orchids and citrus trees. In one corner, a trellis heavy with carnations, crimson as arterial blood. A pair of secateurs lay on the bench, blades flecked with green sapant something darker. Poirot scraped the residue onto a slide. We shall analyze this, Inspector. Meanwhile, he knelt. Beneath the bench, a small puddle, already drying. Not water, whiskey. and in it a single gold thread matching the cufflink's clasp. Japp whistled. Someone was here after the murder. Poirot's gaze swept the glass roof. Snow had melted in one patch, forming a perfect circle. Above it, the ventilation pane stood ajar. Access, he said, from the roof, but why? They returned to the study. Poirot requested Blount's Worcester steel trunk beneath the desk locked. The key hung on a ribbon around the corpse's neck, unnoticed until now. Inside, medals, a Webley revolver, unfired, and a folded trench map. Ypres, 1916. A red X marked a collapsed dugout. Beside it, in Blount's hand, Gray's stand. Hastings paled. I was there, October 9th, shelling all night. Gray ordered us out, said he'd hold the parapet. We never saw him again. Poirot traced the X. Yet here he returns in a telegram, a cufflink, a carnation. Verity entered breathless. The fountain, there's something else. Japp's men had dredged again. This time, a woman's kid glove, monogrammed LB soaked through. Inside the fingers, traces of lipstick, crimson, Lady Lavinia's glove. Poirot held it to the light. The terrace footprint small, healed. Yet the snow was virgin. How does a woman walk on water? He crossed to the French windows. The frost on the sill had melted in a perfect arc. Beneath, a thin wire, nearly invisible, looped through the latch and trailing into the snow. Fishing line, Poirot said, pulled from outside after the latch was secured. The murderer exited, then locked the room behind them. Japp scratched his head. But the snow was falling at 11, Poirot finished. Footprints filled within minutes, the glove planted later, when the fountain was searched. Hastings stared at the map. Gray's stand. Coordinates matched the fountain's positional most. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Almost is the difference between truth and illusion. That afternoon, the coroner's van arrived. Sir Reginald's body was removed, shrouded in black. Lady Lavinia watched from the landing, dry-eyed. Dr. Carstairs prescribed laudanum. Verity typed, correspondence with mechanical clicks. Poirot lingered in the study. He opened the Globe San Marco spun beneath his fingers. A tiny compartment clicked open. Inside, a photograph. A young officer, blonde, smiling. On the back, to RB from LG Eternal Gratitude. Ypres, 1916. The face was Verity Shaw's minus 20 years, and the weight of grief. Poirot pocketed the photograph. The plot thickens, mes amis, like a good bechamel. Poirot turned it over. On the reverse, a smear of crimson lipstick. Chapter 3. Shadows in the summer house twilight. Draped gilded square in bruise-coloured velvet. The gas lamps flickered to life one by one, each a small defiant star against the encroaching dark. Inside number 14, the house had settled into the uneasy hush that follows a death clock's ticking louder, floorboards creaking with guilt, every shadow seeming to lean forward to listen. Hercule Poirot stood alone in the conservatory, the air heavy with the breath of orchids and the ghost of spilled whiskey. The crimson carnations on the trellis glowed like drops of fresh blood in the failing light. He lifted the secateurs with a linen handkerchief. The darker flecks on the blade were not sap. Under his pocket lens they resolved into microscopic fibres wool, navy blue, and a single strand of gold thread matching the cufflink clasp. Someone bled here, he murmured to the empty air, yet left no trail. Captain Hastings burst through the glass door, cheeks flushed from the cold. Japp's found footprints, Poirot. From the terrace to the summer house, then nothing. Vanished like a music hall trick. Poirot replaced the secateurs exactly as he had found them. Show me, mon ami. They crossed the terrace, boots crunching on refrozen slush. The footprints began at the French window so small, heeled, a woman's court shoe, and marched in a straight line to the summer house. a folly of latticed cedar, half buried in yew. There the trail ended abruptly, as though the walker had been spirited upward by gin. Poirot knelt. The final print was deeper than the others. The heel sunk a full inch. Here she paused, perhaps to listen. He brushed snow from the lattice. A smear of crimson lipstick stained the wood at eye level. Hastings shivered. Lady Lavinia wears that shade. Revolutionary red, she calls it. Or Miss Shaw, Poirot countered. Or a third woman we have not yet met. Inside the summer house, the air was sharp with cedar and damp earth. A wicker chaise longue sagged beneath a moth-eaten cashmere shawl. On a deal table lay the remnants of a clandestine rendezvous. 2 crystal glasses, one rimmed with lipstick, the other clean. A silver cigarette case engraved with the San Marco crest. A theatre ticket stub, The Mousetrap, 14th of February, St. James's Theatre, Dress Circle, seat D12. Poirot lifted the ticket. Curieux, the play does not open until next week. Hastings examined the cigarette case. Russian tobacco sobrani. Dr. Carstairs smokes Turkish. Poirot opened the case. Inside, 3 cigarettes, one crushed, its paper torn. Tobacco spilled like sawdust. Beneath the lining, a folded scrap of onion skin. He teased it out with tweezers. A map-pond drawn, the fountain at its centre. An arrow pointed north to the summer house, labelled in pencil 11:25. Another arrow south to the conservatory 11:30. A third west to the Mews Gate 11:35. Timetable, Poirot said softly. The murderer rehearsed. Japp's voice boomed from the terrace. Mr. Poirot, you'll want to hear this. The butler, Greaves, stood wrapped in a greatcoat, breath pluming. Begging your pardon, sir. Last night, but what was 05? Precisely, Lady Lavinia left the house. I saw her from the pantry window, black cloak, no hat. Returned at 11:25, snow on her boots, cheeks flushed, said she needed air. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And Dr. Carstairs? Followed her 5 minutes later. Returned at 11:28, agitated, asked for brandy. Hastings whistled. Lovers tryst. Or accomplices, Poirot said. They confronted Lady Lavinia in the drawing-room. She sat before a fire of sea coal, a cashmere shawl about her shoulders, a crystal glass of chartreuse trembling in her hand. Air? Poirot repeated gently. At 11 on a night fit for polar bears. She laughed, a sound like breaking icicles. Reginald's snoring drove me mad. Felix Dr. Carstairs prescribed fresh air, along with bromide. We walked the square, nothing more. Dr. Carstairs, summoned from the dispensary, corroborated. Lady Lavinia suffers migraines. Cold air helps. I escorted her to the fountain and back. Poirot noted the doctor's pupil pinpricks despite the dim light. Morphine. And the summer house? Carstairs flushed. We rested a moment, on the chaise, then returned. Verity Shaw appeared in the doorway, ledger clutched to her chest. I was in the library until midnight, typing correspondence. The typewriter ribbon is nearly spent proof. Poirot requested the ribbon. It arrived in a cardboard box black with ink. He held it to the light. The final line typed, and so the lioness shall devour her pride. Time stamped by the machine's internal clock, 11:58 p.m. Yet the ink was still tacky. Mademoiselle, Poirot said, typewriter ink dries in minutes. This was written after midnight. Verity paled. I reset the clock to finish urgently. Japp's constable entered with a wax envelope. From the summer house, sir, under the chaise cushion. A morphine vial empty. Label, property of San Marco Legation Dispensary. Carstairs lunged. That's mine! Stolen! Poirot calmed him with a gesture. We shall see. That evening, Poirot requested Sir Reginald's war chest be brought to the study. The steel trunk yielded more treasures. A diary bound in Morocco leather, its pages warped with mud and blood. Entries ceased in October 1916. The final page, 9 Octa. Gray ordered us out. Shell burst. Dugout collapsed. I crawled through the wire. He stayed. Said he'd hold the line. God forgive me. Hastings read over Poirot's shoulder. Blount left him. Or Gray chose martyrdom, Poirot said. Hero or coward history depends on the survivor. Beneath the diary, a folded trench map, larger than the one in the globe. Poirot spread it across the desk. The X at Gray's stand now bore coordinates 51.5074 degrees Sen, 0.1278 degrees, W Central London, a second X marked Gilded Square. Someone overlaid the battlefield onto Mayfair, Hastings whispered. Poirot traced the line between the X's. It passed through the fountain, the summer house, the conservatory. Japp entered triumphant. The lipstick analysed, contains carmine and beeswax, trace of belladonna, theatrical, not cosmetic. Music hall supply shop in Shaftesbury Avenue sold 3 tubes last week, 1 to a woman blonde, veiled, paid cash. Poirot's moustache twitched. Verity, sure. Description matches, but she has an alibi, remember. Alibis, Poirot said, are like pie crusts made to be broken. Night fell. The house lights blazed, yet darkness pooled in the corners. Hastings retired to the guest room, only to wake at 2 a.m. with a start. His dressing room door stood ajar. Inside, chaos. Drawers ransacked, his regimental tie slashed, the mate to the gold cufflink gone. He summoned Poirot. The little detective examined the lock, no forced entry. A window latch, however, showed scratches. Entered from the square, Poirot said, while we slept. Dawn brought the post. A single envelope, no stamp, hand-delivered. Inside, a carnation pressed flat and a card. The lioness hunts at dusk. Grey watches. Poirot sniffed the flower. Beneath the scent of hothouse, chloroform. Japp's men searched the square. Beneath the war memorial, a brass button, 9th Lancers, smeared with lipstick. Beside it, a heel print Lady Lavinia's size, but the tread worn smooth, as though from stage shoes. Poirot gathered the household in the library. Books towered to the ceiling gibbon. Burke, a locked glass case of San Marco first editions. Last night, he began, someone entered Captain Hastings's room. Why? Verity spoke first. To plant evidence, the cufflink. Yet it was stolen, Poirot countered. Why steal what incriminates? Lady Lavinia lit a cigarette with a diamond-studded lighter. To remove it, the captain is innocent. Dr. Carstairs paced. This is madness. Reginald died of a single stab wound. No ghosts, no Grey. Poirot opened the trench map. Yet Grey's coordinates align with this house. Someone believes justice delayed is justice denied. He produced the summer-house map. 1125 summer house, 1130 conservatory, 1135 Bermudas, a perfect triangle. Hastings frowned. The mews gate leads to the alley. Cab could wait. Poirot nodded. Escape route. But why rehearse? Japp's constable burst in. The theatre tickets are tryst, purchased by a woman using the name Mrs. Lionel Grey. Paid with a 5 Charles note serial number, matches the embassy forgery. Verity fainted, striking her head on the fender. Dr. Carstairs knelt, but Poirot was faster. He caught her wrist pulse racing. Beneath her sleeve, a fresh bruise, finger-shaped. Someone gripped her hard, he murmured, recently. Lady Lavinia's cigarette trembled. Felix, did you? Carstairs backed away. I swear, Poirot silenced them. We approached the heart of the maze, but first he crossed to the library clock. Its hands read 11:17, frozen like the study grandfather. He opened the glass face. Behind the mechanism, a tiny brass key. It fit the glass case of San Marco books. Inside the first volume, a hollowed compartment. Within, A photograph Sir Reginald, young, arm around a blonde officer. On the back, to my brother-in-arms, LG. The officer's face was Verity Shaw's minus curls, plus a moustache waxed to match Poirot's own. Hastings gasped. Lieutenant Grey. Poirot shook his head. No, Grey's sister, Vera Greystone, the lioness. Chapter 4. The Scream in the Square. The scream tore through the square like a bayonet through silk raw, female, ending in a choked gasp. Glass from the shattered library window rained onto the parquet in glittering needles. The carnation-wrapped brick lay amid the shards, the lock of blonde hair still damp with blood. Hercule Poirot moved with the precision of a surgeon. He knelt, gloved fingers lifting the brick by its string. The carnation's petals were fresh, dewed with hothouse moisture. The stem had been wired to the brick with florist's copper. The hairpin strands, roots intact, was Verity Shaw's shade, but coarser, sun-bleached at the tips. Mon Dieu, he murmured, a warning or a trophy? Captain Hastings was already at the window, leaning over the sill. There by the memorial! A figure lay crumpled beneath the bronze soldier's plinth. Verity Shaw, dove-grey coat rucked up, one shoe missing. Blood darkened the snow around her temple. Inspector Japp vaulted the sill with surprising agility for a man of his girth. Constable! Ambulance! Poirot followed more circumspectly, testing the snow with each step. The square's virgin crust had been disturbed in a single frantic arc. From the library window to the memorial, 20 yards. Yet no footprints led to the window. Impossible, Japp growled. She was thrown. Or carried, Poirot said, by someone who walked where snow could not record. Dr. Felix Carstairs stumbled out behind them, medical bag clattering. Let me through! He knelt beside Verity, fingers probing her skull. Concussion, laceration superficial, she'll live. Verity's eyes fluttered. A man greatcoat, cavalry buttons. Her voice dissolved into a sob. Lady Lavinia appeared at the broken window. Sable wrap clutched to her throat. Who would dare? Poirot silenced her with a glance. He examined the memorial. The bronze soldier's boot had gouged a crescent in the snow. Beneath it, a handkerchief monogrammed VS soaked in blood not her own. Japp's men fanned out with lanterns. No greatcoat, no man. Only a single brass button. 9th Lancers, half buried beside the plinth. Its shank was bent, as though torn free in a struggle. Poirot pocketed it. The ghost of Lieutenant Grey grows bold. They carried Verity inside on a shutter. The drawing-room became an impromptu infirmary. Dr. Carstairs administered sal volatile. Lady Lavinia poured brandy with a shaking hand. Poirot waited until Verity's colour returned. Mademoiselle, the man in the greatcoat, what did he say? She clutched the handkerchief. Nothing. He grabbed me from behind here. She touched the library door. I was fetching Sir Reginald's diary. He whispered, Tell Poirot the lioness bleeds. Then darkness. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The diary, where is it? Verity pointed to the desk. The Morocco volume lay open, pages rifled. The final entry night. October 1916 was torn out, leaving only a jagged stub. Japp cursed. Evidence tampered with. Poirot examined the tear. The paper fibres slanted upward, ripped by a right-handed person standing above the book. Verity was left-handed. Someone anticipated our interest, he said. Lady Lavinia sank onto a chaise. This is madness. Reginald dead. Verity attacked, next it will be me. Dr. Carstairs adjusted his spectacles. I've increased the morphine dosage for her ladyship's nerves. The dispensary is nearly empty. Poirot's gaze flicked to the doctor's trembling hands. Yet you prescribed bromide last night. Morphine today. A flexible pharmacopoeia. Carstairs flushed. Needs must. Constables sealed the square. Neighbours peered from behind lace curtains. A newsboy shouted extras about the Mayfair murder. Poirot requested the household assemble in the dining room. The table was set for a funeral breakfast that never happened. Sèvres porcelain, crystal, a silver epergne heavy with hothouse grapes. Poirot took the carver's chair. "We progress," he began. Fact 1. Sir Reginald stabbed at 11:17. Fact 2. Revolver removed, unfired. Fact 3. Telegram warns of Gray's return. Fact 4. Verity attacked, diary mutilated. Fact 5. A greatcoat stalks the night. He laid the brass button on the damask cloth. This button torn from the coat. The thread is green silk, regimental colour, yet the 9th Lancers wear black. Hastings leaned forward. Officers sometimes retailer greatcoats. My own has green thread sent to the cleaners last week. Poirot nodded. Returned when? Yesterday morning, before the murder. Lady, Lavinia lit a cigarette. Reginald had a cavalry greatcoat hung in the cloakroom. Naval officers ape the army. It amused him. Japp's constable entered. The cloakroom, Sir Greatcoat's gone. Hangar empty. Poirot produced the summer house map. 11:25 summer house. There, perhaps the coat was donned. 11:30 conservatory. Carnations clipped. 11:35 Maviw's. Escape. Verity, propped on cushions, whispered, "I saw the coat last night, in the library, hanging on the hat stand." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Yet you typed until midnight?" She flushed. "I may have dozed." Dr. Carstairs offered a vial. "Laudanum, for shock." Poirot intercepted it. "Later, perhaps." He sniffed morphine, diluted. Lady Lavinia crushed her cigarette. "Enough games, I confess an affair with Felix. Reginald discovered us last week, threatened divorce, ruin, but I did not kill him." Carstairs nodded. "She wanted the embassy fortune. I wanted her. We argued in the summer house, 11:05 to 11:25, then returned separately." Verity produced a letter from her pocket creased, ink blurred. "Sir Reginald wrote this yesterday. Planned to elope with me to San Marco. Leave Lavinia penniless." The handwriting matched Blount's diary. Poirot examined the seal broken, wax the colour of dried blood. 3 motives, he said. Jealousy, greed, passion, yet only one blade. Hastings recalled his war service. Lieutenant Grayriel named Lionel Greystone. Decorated posthumously. Sister Vera inherited nothing. Blount claimed the credit for Gray's plan that saved the battalion. She swore vengeance in the regimental chapel. Poirot produced the photograph from the San Marco book. Vera Greystone Verity Shaw, the lioness. Verity lunged for the door. Japp restrained her. "I forged the telegram," she spat. "Wanted him ruined, exposed, not dead." Poirot believed her. Then who benefits from chaos? He requested the fountain be dredged again. This time, a waterproof pouch, oilskin, weighted with lead shot. Inside, a love letter, perfume-soaked, addressed to Dr. Carstairs. "Meet me at the summer house, 11:15. Destroy this." Lady Lavinia paled. "I wrote no such letter." The perfume was Lily of the Valley Verity's scent. Japp's men searched Carstairs' room. Beneath the mattress, a syringe, morphine ampules, and a theatre makeup kit grease paint, spirit gum, false moustache. Carstairs collapsed. For migraines, the moustache fancy dress. Poirot examined the kit. 1 pot of crimson lipstick matching the summer house glass. That night, the house was locked and bolted. Poirot stationed constables at every door. He himself took the study, a candle his only light. At 11:17 precisely, the French windows creaked. A figure in cavalry greatcoat slipped inside, face obscured by a balaclava. The intruder crossed to the safe, spun the dial 11+17. It opened. Poirot rose. Bonsoir, mon fantôme. The figure whirled. A revolver glinted, Blount's Colt. Drop it! Jap barked from the doorway, torch blazing. The intruder fired. The bullet shattered the chandelier. Crystal rained like hail. In the chaos, the figure vaulted the terrace. Poirot pursued. The snow had begun again, thick flakes erasing tracks. By the fountain, the greatcoat lay abandoned, buttonless. Beneath it, a woman's kid glove, monogrammed LB, and a carnation wired to a lead weight. Jap arrived, panting. Lost him in the mews! Poirot lifted the glove. Inside, a brass key, Yale cut. The diary page, he said, hidden where only the lioness would look. They returned to the study. The safe stood open empty, save for a single object. A child's toy soldier, 9th Lancers, one arm missing. Poirot turned it over. On the base, scratched with a pin, for Lionel. V. Dawn found Verity in the library, bandaged defiant. I staged the attack, wanted you to find the letter, suspect Felix, but the diary page I burned it. Poirot produced the toy soldier. Your brother's? She wept. Reginald sent it after the war. Mockery. Lady Lavinia confessed the 3,000 paid to a San Marco assassin as insurance. Reginald planned to flee with Verity. I'd be ruined. Carstairs admitted stealing morphine to sell, fund and escape with Lavinia. All guilty of sins, none of murder. Poirot gathered them at dusk. Snow fell like ash. The murderer entered at 11:05 wearing the greatcoat, Hastings cufflink planted in the study. Stabbed Blount at 11:17, exited via the terrace, pulled the fishing line to latch the window. Returned later, fired the shot to retrieve the diary page. He produced the missing page from the fountain pouch, preserved in oilskin. If I die, the carnation will name my killer. Trust no one. R.B. Poirot crushed a fresh carnation. Beneath the petals, a microphotograph developed in the darkroom. A woman's face, Verity, in cavalry uniform, moustache waxed, eyes burning. But Verity was in the library, Hastings began. Poirot smiled. No, she was the lioness in the greatcoat. Chapter 5. The Missing Combination. The tunnel beneath the summer house exhaled the breath of the dead. Damp stone, candle smoke, and something sweeter decaying carnations. The trapdoor, concealed beneath the wicker chaise, had been hinged with theatrical precision. Its iron ring was wrapped in felt to muffle sound. Poirot descended first, candle held high, the flame trembling like a guilty conscience. The passage was narrow, brick-vaulted, no more than 5 feet high. Hastings stooped, muttering about rats. Inspector Japp followed, revolver drawn, torch beams slicing the gloom. The walls wept moisture. Every footstep echoed twice, once in the tunnel, once in the listener's imagination. 20 yards in, the tunnel widened into a chamber the size of a chapel crypt. A deal table stood at the center, scarred by cigarette burns and knife gouges. Upon it, a bowl of water, clouded crimson, floating a single carnation. The petals had unfurled like a dying octopus. Poirot lifted the flower with tweezers. Beneath, a brass key, identical to the one from the glove. 2 keys, he murmured, one to open, one to close. The walls were papered with yellowed newsprint, pinned with dressmakers' tacks. Headlines screamed. Photographs accompanied each clipping. Blount in dress uniform, medals gleaming. A younger Verity Shaw hair cropped. Eyes hollow refusing the posthumous Victoria Cross at Buckingham Palace. Hastings whistled. A shrine to vengeance. Poirot's candle revealed more. A tailor's dummy draped in the missing cavalry greatcoat, buttons replaced with theatrical paste. A make-up mirror, cracked, surrounded by grease paint pot spirit gum. Crepe hair, a false moustache curled like a sleeping caterpillar. Japp opened a tin trunk. Inside, women's clothing, Verity's dove-grey dress, ink-stained, a blonde wig on a stand, a pair of court shoes, heels filed smooth. Disguises, Japp growled. She played both secretary and ghost. Poirot examined the mirror. On its reverse, etched with a diamond, for Lionel. V. A corkboard above the table displayed the trench map, overlaid with gilded square. Red string connected the exits. Dugout to fountain, summer house to conservatory, mews gate to the tunnel mouth. Times penciled in Verity's hand. 11:05, 11:17, 11:25, 11:30, 11:35. Rehearsal, Poirot said. But rehearsal for what? Murder already accomplished. He lifted the carnation bowl. Beneath, a wax cylinder, Edison type, wrapped in oilskin. Japp's eyes widened. A recording? They returned to the house. The gramophone in the music room rosewood, his master's voice accepted the cylinder with a soft click. Poirot wound the crank. A woman's voice, distorted by static, filled the room. Reginald Blount, you left my brother to die, took his glory, his name. Tonight the lioness claims her pride. At 11:17, the hour he saved you, you will know his pain. The voice was Verity's yet deeper, theatrical, as though spoken through a megaphone. Lady Lavinia, summoned from her room, paled. That's impossible. She was typing in the library. Dr. Carstairs adjusted his spectacles. Stage trick, echo chamber, the tunnel amplifies. Poirot stopped the cylinder. Yet the safe combination was changed after death. To 11:17, only 4 knew the original Sir Reginald's wedding date, 14th of June, 1919. He gathered them in the study. Lady Lavinia Carstairs Verity, bandaged defiant, Hastings Japp. The safe stood open, dial at 0. Madame, Poirot addressed Lavinia, your wedding date changed how? She hesitated. Reginald altered it last month. Said the old one was compromised, San Marco spies. Yet the new combination was of 13 hour of death, a message. Verity laughed bitterly. I changed. It, after I stabbed him, wanted you to find the diary page. Poirot produced the page from the fountain pouch, preserved. Gray is not who he seems. If I die, trust Poirot. He turned to Carstairs. You supplied morphine to silence nightmares. How much? The doctor stammered. 10 grains nightly. The dispensary. Short 20 grains, Japp finished. Enough to kill. Carstairs lunged for the door. Japp restrained him. Poirot opened the war chest. Beneath the medals, a second diary, smaller, locked. The brass key from the carnation bowl fit perfectly. Entries in Lionel Gray's hand. Recovered from a field hospital, 1918. Blount abandoned me. Took credit for my plan. I lived burned, blind in one eye. He rose. I rotted. Sister Vera will have justice. The final entry, coordinates matching the tunnel. Hastings paled. Gray survived? Poirot shook his head. No, Vera forged this. The handwriting matches her ledger. Verity wept. I wanted him to suffer, not die. Poirot requested the trench map from the globe. Beneath the X at Ypres, a penciled note in Blount's hand. Gray ordered us out. Said he'd hold the line. I obeyed. Heroism, Poirot said softly. Not betrayal. Lady Lavinia confessed the 3,000 paid to a San Marco contact to frame Verity. Insurance, Carstairs admitted, selling morphine to fund an escape with Lavinia. Japp cuffed them both. Conspiracy, theft, assault. Verity remained free motive, but no murder. Poirot gathered the clues on the desk. Cufflink, carnation, brass button, Yale key, wax cylinder, toy soldier. The murderer entered at 11:05, wearing the greatcoat, Hastings's cufflink planted. Stabbed Blount at 11:17, exited via the terrace, pulled the fishing line. Returned later, fired the shot to retrieve the diary page. Changed the combination to taunt us. He turned to Verity. You staged the attack, forged the telegram, built the tunnel shrine, but the stab wound downward, from behind, then twisted. A woman's strength, but a soldier's precision. Verity lunged for the letter opener still bloodied on the evidence table. Japp intercepted. "I didn't kill him," she screamed. "I wanted him alive, ruined." Poirot's eyes gleamed. Then who did? He requested the fountain pouch again. Inside, beneath the diary page, a child's slate, chalked with a single word, Maman. Lady Lavinia gasped. "Reginald's bastards and Marco. A boy, sent to school in England. Name, Lionel." The room spun. Poirot produced the microphotograph from the carnation. Not Verity in uniform. A boy 12 years old, dressed as Lieutenant Grey for a school play. The face is Lionel Blount, Jr. Hastings frowned. The air. Sent by his mother, the Duchessa di Montebiancotto, reclaim his father's secrets. The telegram. Lioness betrays pride. The Duchessa sold arms to both sides. Blount discovered. Planned to expose her. Japp whistled. The boy killed his own father? Poirot shook his head. No, the boy was the messenger. The killer someone who knew the tunnel, the combination, the carnation code. He turned to the safe. Beneath the false bottom, a ledger, San Marco crest. Entries in the Duchessa's hand payments to Dr. Carstairs. Morphine for silence, Poirot said. Carstairs killed Blount to protect the Duchess and his lover, Lavinia. Carstairs laughed hysterically. The boy brought the letter opener gift from his mother. I used it, staged the locked room. Verity's shrine gave me the idea. Verity screamed. You used my brother's memory. Poirot silenced her. The fishing line, the greatcoat, the shot in the dark hall Carstairs. The boy fled through the tunnel, leaving the slate. Japp cuffed Carstairs. Murder, conspiracy, treason. Lady Lavinia collapsed. I knew nothing, Poirot believed her. You paid for silence, not a death. Verity was led away, sobbing. The tunnel shrine was sealed. Outside, snow began to fall again, covering the square, the tunnel, the blood. Chapter 6. The Torn Page. The Black Maria's engine coughed to life, its headlights carving tunnels through the falling snow. Dr. Felix Carstairs, wrists cuffed, pressed his face to the grille. His final words to Poirot. The boy escaped. He has the real diary page, and the revolver. Hung in the air like frost. Hercule Poirot stood on the curb, overcoat collar turned up, watching the van disappear around the corner of Gilded Square. The snowflakes were large now, lazy, settling on his moustache like tiny white lies. Captain Hastings shivered beside him. A 12-year-old boy with Blount's colt? Good Lord, Poirot, what have we unleashed? Poirot's eyes were fixed on the war memorial. The bronze soldier's bayonet glinted, catching the lamplight. Not unleashed, mon ami. Awakened. The lioness's cub has teeth. Inspector Japp barked orders. Constables fanned out, lanterns swinging. Search every alley, every coal hole. The lad can't have gone far. But Poirot was already moving back across the terrace, through the French windows, into the study. The room felt colder now. The fire long dead. The safe gaped like an empty mouth. He knelt, candle in hand, examining the carpet. The blood pool had dried to a black lake. Beneath the desk, a single chalk marker child's arrow pointing to the wainscot. Curieux, he murmured. The panel was oak, carved with acanthus leaves. Poirot pressed the centre rosette. A click. The panel swung inward, revealing a narrow shaft laundry chute, disused. A scrap of paper fluttered at the bottom. Hastings retrieved it with tongs. A child's scrawl. Maman says you lie. Papa's words will burn you. El Poirot pocketed it. The boy was here after the murder, listening. They followed the chute to the basement. The laundry room smelled of starch and mildew. egg, hamper stood open. Inside, a school captain, crest faded, and a bloodied handkerchief monogrammed LB Junior Jap arrived breathless. Mews gate forced, footprint small, running, led to the underground station. Poirot shook his head. No, a diversion. The boy knows the tunnels. They returned to the summer house. The trapdoor yawned. Poirot descended again, this time with a bullseye lantern. The shrine chamber had been ransacked, clippings torn, makeup mirror smashed, the carnation bowl overturned. On the table, a fresh chalk drawing a lioness, crudely rendered, tears streaming from her eyes. Beneath, you took my brother, I take your son. Hastings paled. Verity. Released on bail, Jap confirmed. Slipped her minder an hour ago. Poirot examined the lioness. The chalk was soft, theatrical same as the makeup kit. A single blonde hair clung to the dust. She was here, he said, with the boy. A search of the tunnel revealed a side passage bricked up hastily, mortar still wet. Jap's men attacked it with pickaxes. Beyond, a cellar beneath number 15, empty save for a camp bed, a Primus stove, and a stack of San Marco diplomatic pouches. One pouch was open. Inside, the missing $3,000 in Bank of England notes and a child's exercise book. Pages filled with Lionel Blount Jr.'s handwriting copies of his father's diary entries, annotated in red ink, lies, lies, lies. The final page, a map of the underground Bakerloo line circled, a note, meet Maman at Baker Street midnight, bring the page. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The boy flees to his mother the Duchessa, but Verity follows. Jap radioed Scotland Yard. All stations Baker Street. Child 12, blonde, carrying a revolver. Accompanied by woman, 25, blonde, distressed. They raced to the station in Jap's Wolseley. London was a blur of snow and neon. Baker Street station loomed, its Art Nouveau arches draped in icicles. The platform was deserted, save for a busker playing Keep the Home Fires Burning on a battered violin. Poirot scanned the faces. City clerks, a nurse, a priest nun their quarry. A train rumbled in. Doors hissed open, their carriage 3. Lionel Blount Jr., cap pulled low, clutching a satchel. Beside him, Verity Shaw, veil lifted, eyes wild. Jap moved to intercept. Poirot held him back. Wait! The page! The boy opened the satchel. Inside, Blount's diary, the torn page restored with scotch tape. He read aloud, voice cracking. Gray is not who he seems. He is my son-born, 1913, San Marco, the Duchessa's child. I abandoned him as I abandoned his uncle. If I die, the carnation will name my killer, the lioness who bore my shame. Verity snatched the page. Lies! Reginald abandoned Lionel, me brother, at Ypres. This boy is his bastard, not his heir. The train doors began to close. Poirot stepped forward. Mademoiselle, the boy is innocent. Give me the page. Verity's hand went to her coat pocket, the bulge of the Colt. Lionel Jr. grabbed her wrist. No! Maman said, a shot. The violinist's bow screeched to silence. Verity staggered, blood blooming on her shoulder. The revolver clattered to the platform. Jap tackled her. Constables swarmed. Poirot knelt beside the boy. Your mother, the Duchesse Achet, sent you. Lionel nodded, tears freezing on his lashes. To fetch Papa's papers. He was going to expose her. The arms deals. She said if I brought the diary, she'd acknowledge me. Poirot took the page. The ink was fresh forged. Verity wrote this, he said softly, to lure you. The real page? He produced the oilskin pouch from his pocket. The original, water-stained but intact. Gray ordered us out. I obeyed. He saved us all. My son, Lionel, born of the Duchessa, must never know my shame. If I die, trust Poirot to protect him. The boy wept. Verity, bleeding, laughed through pain. I forged the telegram, the diary, the shrine. Wanted Blount ruined. Carstairs killed him, used my plan. I followed the boy to stop him revealing the truth. Japp cuffed her. Attempted murder, forgery, conspiracy. Poirot turned to Lionel. Your father loved you. In his way. The carnation was his promising to protect you. The train departed, empty. Snow filled the platform like a shroud. Back at Gilded Square, dawn painted the sky the colour of watered blood. Lady Lavinia, under guard, signed papers relinquishing the embassy fortune to Lionel Jr. Dr. Carstairs in the cells, confessed fully. The Duchessa paid me to silence Blount. I used Verity's fishing line, her greatcoat, her carnation, staged the locked room. The boy was to deliver the diary to Baker Street. I'd intercept, destroy it. Verity followed, shot her to silence her. Poirot reconstructed the night. The boy, hidden in the chute, witnessed all. Verity, released earlier, built the shrine to frame Carstairs, then followed the boy to destroy the evidence. Poirot gathered the household one last time. The study fire crackled. The little grey cells, he said, demanded order, the carnation symbol of San Marco, but also of a father's love. The torn page restored, revealed truth, the boy innocent, yet pivotal. He turned to Lionel Jr. You will go to your mother, but with protection. The truth will free you. The Duchessa, arrested at Dover, confessed the arms deals, say, Lionel inherited the title, Sir Lionel Blount, ambassador-in-waiting. Verity, in hospital, faced trial. Carstairs, the gallows. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. The lioness sleeps. El Snow covered it, gentle as forgiveness. Chapter 7. The Shot in the Dark. The white carnation lay on the doorstep like a surrender flag. Snowflakes settled on its petals, each one a tiny crystal shroud. Hercule Poirot lifted it with the reverence due a relic, the note beneath. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. The lioness sleeps. L was written in violet ink and chipotled paper watermarked with the San Marco crest. Captain Hastings stamped warmth into his feet. The boy's safe, then. Case closed. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Non, mon ami. A white carnation is mourning, or warning, and the lioness. He glanced back at number 14. She dreams. Inside, the house had the hollow ring of a tomb after the corpse is removed. Constables catalogued evidence. A maid wept into her apron. The grandfather clock, finely repaired, struck 7 with mournful dignity. Inspector Japp met them in the hall, face grim beneath the bowler. Carstairs has lawyered up, claims the Duchessa forced his hand. Verity's stable refuses to speak without the boy present, and the revolver, still missing, Poirot finished, with Lionel Jr. They ascended to the study. The room had been stripped, desk bare, carpet rolled, bloodstains scrubbed to ghosts. Yet the air remained heavy, as though the walls remembered violence. Poirot crossed to the French windows. The fishing line was gone, but the latch showed fresh scratches metal on metal. He knelt, magnifying glass in hand. A single fibre clung to the brass. Navy wool, flecked with gold. From the greatcoat, he murmured, but the coat is in evidence. Hastings frowned. A second coat, or the first, returned. Japp produced a wax envelope. Found this in the summer-house tunnel behind the bricked wall. Fell out when we broke through. A morphine vial, half full, label scratched off. Beside it, a brass cartridge case, .32 caliber. Poirot sniffed the vial. Diluted, enough to sedate, not kill. He examined the cartridge beneath the lens. Faint striations fired from Blount's Colt. The shot in the dark, Hastings recalled, when the chandelier exploded. Poirot nodded, but the revolver was dredged from the fountain and fired. Japp scratched his head. 2 guns? Or 1, Poirot said, fired twice, once to kill, once to distract. They reconstructed the night. Yet the fountain revolver had one round missing, fired after dredging. Poirot's moustache twitched. The boy! He fired the second shot. They returned to the basement tunnel. The bricked wall had been demolished, rubble piled like a cairn. Behind it, a second chamber, smaller, fitted as a darkroom. Trays of developer, red safe light, a clothesline strung with photographs. Poirot lifted one with tongs. Sir Reginald Blount, alive, in the study taken from the terrace. Timestamp 11:16. Another Blount slumped, letter opener buried. 11:17. A third, the safe open dial at 11:17. 11:19. The boy documented the murder, Hastings whispered. Poirot examined the camera a Kodak vest pocket, child-sized. On the bellows, a smudge of crimson lipstick. Verity's shade, he said, but the hand that held its maul. Japp's constable entered. Sir, the revolver, found in the conservatory, wrapped in the greatcoat, one round, fired. Recently. Poirot unwrapped the bundle. The Colt gleamed, pearl handle intact. The barrel smelled of fresh gun oil. He opened the cylinder. 5 rounds, 1 empty chamber. The fountain gun was a decoy, he said. This is the murder weapon. But the stab wound was the cause of death. Poirot requested the coroner's report. Delivered by messenger, still warm from the typewriter. Cause of death, exsanguination from aortic severance. Secondary, gunshot wound, left temple, post-mortem. Powder burns absent. Hastings gasped. Blount was shot after death? Poirot nodded. To stage the locked room, the bullet in the ceiling distraction, the real shot into the wound to confuse trajectory. He demonstrated with a pencil. Stab from behind. Then revolver pressed to the entry, fired. Bullet follows the blade path, exits the chest, lodges in the desk, removed later. Japp whistled. Diabolical. They searched the desk. Beneath the false bottom, a .32 slug, flattened, bloodied. The missing bullet, Poirot said. The boy retrieved it after the chandelier fell. A timeline emerged, but Carstairs was in custody during the chandelier shot. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The boy acted alone second visit to protect his father's secret. They returned to the darkroom. On the clothesline, a final photograph Lionel Jr., in the greatcoat, revolver raised. Behind him, Verity, unconscious, bound. Timestamp 2:42 a.m. The night she was attacked, Hastings said. Staged? Poirot shook his head. Real. The boy knocked her out to silence her. Beneath the safe light, a developing tray. In it, the torn diary page, dissolving. Ink bled into the solution like blood. Poirot fished it out with tongs. Fragments readable. Son Lionel protect Carnation, the rest lost. Japp radioed Baker Street. The boy, where is he? Boarding school in Surrey, came the reply. Arrived dawn. Duchess's orders. Poirot requested the school be searched. They arrived at St. Brendan's as matins ended. The headmaster, a stooped cleric, led them to the dormitory. Lionel Jr.'s bed was made with military precision. Beneath the pillow, the Colt, wrapped in a San Marco flag. The boy stood at the window, watching snow blanket the cricket pitch. Monsieur Poirot, he said without turning. I fired the shot. To save Papa's honour, Poirot sat beside him. You saw the murder. Lionel nodded. From the shoot. Dr. Carstairs, she promised Maman he'd silence Papa. I followed him, took pictures. When he left, I cleaned up. He opened a drawer. Inside, the bullet, the diary page fragments, a carnation pressed between Bible pages. I shot the ceiling so you'd think it was later, hid the gun in the fountain first, then retrieved it. Poirot examined the Bible. Marginalia in the boy's hand. Father, forgive them. You are brave, Poirot said softly, but justice is not yours to dispense. The headmaster took custody. Lionel would testify against Carstairs, the Duchess of Verity. Back in London, Poirot reconstructed the full sequence, the white carnation Lionel's farewell. In the study, Poirot gathered the remnants. Carnation, note, bullet, photographs. "The little grey cells," he said, "the order in chaos. The father's shame, the son's devotion, the doctor's greed, the sister's vengeance, all threads in the same tapestry." Japp closed his notebook. "Carstairs hangs. Duchessa deported. Verity prison. The boy." "Boarding school," Poirot said, "with a trust fund. And the truth." Hastings offered brandy. "To the lion cub." Poirot raised his glass. "To the carnation symbol of love and of blood." Outside, snow ceased. Gilded Square gleamed, innocent again. Chapter 8. The fifth fingerprint. Snow had ceased by the time the envelope arrived, postmarked San Marco, delivered by a gloved messenger who vanished before the butler could tip him. The white petal within was pressed so thin it was translucent. The child's drawing beneath showed a lioness curled in sleep, tail wrapped protectively around a cub. The violet ink read, "The pride is safe." L. Hercule Poirot turned the petal between thumb and forefinger. It carried no scent, only the faint chemical tang of formalin. "Preserved," he murmured. "A specimen, not a flower." Captain Hastings poured coffee from a silver pot that had once belonged to the Tsar. "Lionel's farewell, then, case-tied with a bow." Poirot's moustache gave a single, decisive twitch. "No. A bow unties, and this case has one knot still hidden." He laid the petal beside the evidence array on the breakfast table. The Colt revolver, the flattened bullet, the darkroom photographs, the torn diary fragments, the white carnation note. Each object gleamed under the electric chandelier like a chess piece waiting for the final move. Inspector Japp entered, stamping slush from his boots. "Coroner's final report, and something else." He slapped a fingerprint card onto the damask, lifted from the letter opener handle beneath the blood. Not Carstairs, not Verity, not Blount. Poirot took the card. The print was small, the ridges delicate, almost a child's. Yet the core pattern was a perfect loop, rare in adults. "The fifth fingerprint," he said softly. Hastings frowned. "Lionel?" "No. The boy's prints are on file taken at St. Brendan's. These are narrower. A woman's or an adolescent's." Japp produced a second card. From the darkroom camera, same print. Poirot's eyes gleamed like winter stars. Then the boy had an accomplice, someone who held the letter opener after the blood dried. They returned to the study. The room had been restored, carpet relaid, desk polished, the French windows repaired. Yet the air remained charged, as though violence lingered in the grain of the wood. Poirot knelt by the desk. The blood pool was gone, but a faint outline remained darker where the body had lain. He traced it with a gloved finger. Beneath the blotter, a hairline crack in the mahogany. He pressed. A drawer slid open secret, spring-loaded. Inside, a single object wrapped in oilskin. A woman's glove, left hand, dove grey kid, monogrammed AH. Hastings gasped. "My glove! Stolen from my dressing room the night of the ransacking." Poirot turned it inside out. The palm was stained rust-brown dried blood. And on the middle finger, a perfect print, matching the card. "The killer wore your glove," Poirot said, "to leave the fifth print. But why?" Japp scratched his head. "To frame you? Or to protect someone," Poirot countered. "The print is deliberate pressed, not accidental." They examined the glove beneath the lens. The blood was Blount's typo positive. But a second stain, fainter, lipstick, revolutionary red. "Lady Lavinia's shade," Hastings said. "Or Verity's," Poirot replied. "Both wore it." A constable entered with a telegram. "Duchessa arrived Dover, refuses counsel, demands Poirot." They motored to the coast through skeletal woods. The channel was iron grey, gulls wheeling like torn paper. The Duchessa di Montebianco awaited in a customs shed, veiled in black lace, a carnation white pinned to her lapel. "Monsieur Poirot," she said in accented English, "you have my son." "Safe," Poirot replied, "but your secrets are not." She lifted her veil. Her face was Verity's 20 years older, grief carved into every line. "I am Lionel's mother, and Lionel Gray's aunt. Blount seduced me in San Marco, 1912, sent me away pregnant, returned into 16 to claim his heroism. My brother died defending his lie." Poirot produced the diary fragments. Yet Blount wrote of love, protection. "Lies," she spat. "He planned to expose my arms deals to save his career. I sent Lionel to retrieve the proof. Carstairs was to silence him. And the fifth print?" She smiled thinly. "Mine. I wore the glove, held the blade after Carstairs fled, to ensure the boy's inheritance." Poirot shook his head. "Your print is on file San Marco legation, 1913. This is smaller, younger." The Duchessa's eyes flickered. "Then Verity. She hated me as much as Blount." Back in London, Verity awaited in the hospital, bandaged, defiant. "The print?" Poirot asked. She laughed. "I wore the glove to plant your cufflink, Captain. But the blade, Carstairs' work." Poirot produced the darkroom photograph Lionel in the greatcoat, revolver raised. Behind him, a shadow, a girl, no more than 14, blonde, holding the camera. Verity paled. "My niece, Eliza Greystone, Lionel's cousin. She followed him, took the pictures." Japp's men located Eliza at a convent school in Kensington. She arrived at Scotland Yard wrapped in a grey cloak, eyes ancient in a child's face. "I held the knife," she whispered, after Dr. Carstairs ran, to make sure Sir Reginald was dead, for Uncle Lionel. Poirot knelt to her level. "You pressed your print?" She nodded. "With the glove. So they'd think it was a grown-up." The timeline crystallized. The fifth print protection for the children. Poirot gathered the final assembly in the study. Lady Lavinia pale, the Duchessa veiled, Verity cuffed, Carstairs shackled, Lionel and Eliza hand in hand. The little grey cells, Poirot began, demanded order, the murder, Carstairs for greed, the locked room, fishing line, boys' photographs, the fifth print, Eliza's devotion, the white carnation, Lionel's farewell. He laid the glove on the desk. "Captain Hastings, your cufflink was stolen to implicate you by Verity. The glove, to protect the children by Eliza." Carstairs laughed. "I killed him. The rest is noise." The Duchessa wept. "I armed a war. For money. Blount would have exposed me." Verity bowed her head. "I forged the shrine, to ruin him, not kill." Lionel spoke. "Papa wrote the truth. I hid it to protect Maman." Eliza added, "I pressed the print so they'd blame a ghost." Poirot turned to Japp. "Charges, Carstairs murder, Duchessa treason, Verity conspiracy, the children witnesses." Justice rolled forward like the tide. Chapter 9. The Library Alibi. The microfilm glowed on the white wall of Poirot's Baker Street flat like a small, accusing moon. The marriage certificate dated 12th April 1912. San Marco Cathedral was signed in Blount's youthful hand, and the Duchessa's maiden name, Maria Sophia Greystone de Montebianco. A priest's flourish, a wax seal, 2 witnesses. Captain Hastings poured 2 glasses of Chateau d'Yquem. "Lionel is legitimate. The title, the fortune, his by right." Hercule Poirot did not drink. He stood before the projector, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the date. "Oui, but legitimacy is a legal truth. Murder is a moral one, and the library alibi remains a lie." He switched off the projector. The room fell into lamplight and shadow. Verity Shaw claimed she typed in the library until midnight. The ribbon proves otherwise. Ink wet at 2 a.m., the clock set back, She was not where she said. Hastings frowned. But Carstairs confessed. The children corroborated. Case closed. Poirot's moustache bristled. Confessions are like snowflakes, mon ami. Beautiful, but they melt under scrutiny. They returned to Gilded Square at dawn. The house was sealed, windows shuttered, a constable at the door. Inside, the library smelled of leather dust and the ghost of Russian tobacco. Poirot crossed to the typewriter in Underwood No. 5, ribbon nearly spent. He rolled in a fresh sheet, typed, "The lioness hunts at dusk." The keys struck with crisp authority. He held the paper to the light. Ink glossy, wet. "Observe," he said, "dries in 90 seconds. Verity's alibi, page typed at 11:58, was tacky at 2 a.m., 2 hours later. Impossible." He opened the ribbon spool. The fabric was black with use, but the final inch fresh, uninked. She changed the ribbon after typing the alibi, to hide the true time. Hastings examined the wastepaper basket. Inside, the old ribbon crumpled. He unrolled it carefully. The final impression, "And so the lioness shall devour her pride." 11:58 p.m., but the ribbon's internal clock-tiny perforations read 01:47 a.m. Poirot's eyes gleamed. She typed at 1:47 a.m. after the chandelier shot, after the boys' ceiling fire. She was in the house the entire night. They reconstructed her movements. Japp arrived, summoned by telegram. Verity's lawyering up, claims duress. Poirot led them to the library clock. He opened the glass face. Behind the mechanism, a tiny brass lever. Verity adjusted this nightly, he said, to falsify timestamps on embassy correspondence. A spy's trick. He reset the lever. The clock jumped forward 2 hours. Her entire alibi fabricated. They searched her room. Beneath the mattress, a blonde wig, spirit gum, and a San Marco passport in the name Vera Greystone. Japp whistled. She planned to flee with the boy. Poirot produced the darkroom photographs. In one, Verity unconscious, Bound had a fresh bruise on her temple. But the rope marks were loose, theatrical. "Self-inflicted," he said, to deflect suspicion. The final piece, the typewriter's platen. Beneath the rubber, a single strand of blonde hair Verity's and a smear of revolutionary red lipstick. She typed after the attack, Poirot said, while the boy thought her unconscious. They confronted Verity in the hospital. She lay propped on pillows, shoulder-bandaged, eyes defiant. "You lied," Poirot said. "You were the lioness in the greatcoat. You stabbed Blount." She laughed. "Carstairs confessed." "Under duress," Poirot replied. "The Duchessa threatened his family. You orchestrated everything." He laid the evidence on the bed. Ribbon, clock lever, passport, photographs. You forged the telegram, built the shrine, lured the boy. Carstairs was your tool. You stabbed Blount at 11:17, fired into the wound, exited, returned at 1:47 to type the alibi. The boy, thinking to protect you, staged the attack, fired the ceiling shot. Verity's mask cracked. "Reginald abandoned my brother, took his glory. I wanted him ruined. Carstairs wanted him dead. We compromised," she confessed. Poirot turned to Japp. "Charges: Verity murder, conspiracy, forgery, Carstairs accessory, the children witnesses." Verity lunged for the morphine vial on the bedside table. Japp restrained her. "You used the boy's love," Poirot said softly, "and Eliza's grief. The carnation was your signature," she wept, "for Lionel, my brother." In the study, Poirot gathered the final assembly. Lady Lavinia, free but ruined, the Duchessa deported, Carstairs broken, Verity cuffed, Lionel and Eliza, hand in hand. "The library alibi," Poirot began, "was the key. The clock, the ribbon, the lipstick lies within lies. Verity planned ruin. Carstairs delivered death. The children innocent, yet complicit in cover." He laid the marriage certificate on the desk. Lionel is heir. The fortune highs, the truth his burden. The boy stepped forward. I fired the ceiling shot to protect Aunt Vera. I didn't know she killed Papa. Eliza added, I pressed the print to blame a ghost for Uncle Lionel. Poirot knelt. You are brave, but truth is the only ghost that frees. Justice closed like a book. He did. Inside, a microchip, modern, anachronistic. A final message etched in silicon. The lioness wakes. San Marco burns. Chapter 10. The engraved truth. The microchip was no larger than a fingernail, yet it burned in Poirot's palm like a coal. Its surface, etched with circuitry invisible to the naked eye, reflected the gas lamps of Gilded Square in fractured rainbows. The engraving, visible only under a lens, read, The lioness wakes. San Marco burns. Captain Hastings stared. Good Lord! Poirot a wireless transmitter in 1930. Poirot slipped it into a velvet pouch. Not 1930, mon ami. The future intrudes. Someone plays a deeper game. They stood in the study of number 14, the house now a hollow shell. Furniture shrouded in dust sheets, the chandelier swathed in muslin like a corpse. Only the desk remained bare, evidence arrayed upon it like a sacrificial offering. The letter opener, the colt, the carnation bowl, the marriage certificate, the microchip. Inspector Japp burst through the door, coat dripping melted snow. San Marco's in chaos. Revolution. The Duchessa's palace torched. Wireless reports lionesses broadcast on every frequency. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Verity's final move. They raced to the hospital. Verity Shaw lay in a private ward, wrists restrained, eyes fever-bright. A gramophone on the bedside table spun a wax cylinder her voice, distorted, looping, The lioness wakes, the pride rises, Blount's blood waters the revolution. Poirot stopped the cylinder. You planned this from the beginning. She smiled, lips cracked. Reginald stole my brother's life. I stole his legacy. The microchip smuggled from Berlin, 1929, a gift from a physicist friend. Broadcasts on a frequency the embassy monitors. When they tune in, boom. Japp paled. A bomb? Radio triggered, Verity said, in the embassy safe. Blount's peace plan dynamite in diplomatic pouches. Lionel's inheritance ashes. Poirot's mind raced. The safe combination 1117. The pouches returned to San Marco with the boy. He turned to Japp. Evacuate the legation. Now. Too late. A wireless crackled in the corridor. A voice panicked. San Marco legation explosion. Casualties unknown. Verity laughed until she coughed blood. The lioness devours her pride. Poirot leaned close. You used the children. Lionel's love. Eliza's grief for this. For justice, she whispered. My brother died in mud. Blount died in silk. Now the world burns. He produced the letter opener. Beneath the dried blood, an engraving faint, almost erased. To R.B. from V.G., eternal gratitude. Ypres, 1916. Your gift, Poirot said. You carried it always. Verity's eyes widened. You found it. Non, you showed me. The carnation, the cufflink, the clockle breadcrumbs to this moment. He assembled the final tableau in the study. Lady Lavinia, hollow-eyed, the Duchessa, via telegram from exile, Carstairs in chains, Verity guarded, Lionel and Eliza, summoned from school. The engraved truth, Poirot began, is layered. Fact 1. Verity planned ruin. Forged telegram, shrine, alibi. Fact 2. Carstairs stabbed Blount panicked greedy. Fact 3. The children covered photographs, ceiling shot, 5th print. Fact 4. The microchip Verity's revolution. He held the letter opener to the light. This blade your brother's gift to Blount. You reclaimed it. Stabbed him yourself. Carstairs lied to protect you. Carstairs lunged. She forced me. Verity smiled. We forced each other. Poirot continued. The bomb Verity's final act. Triggered when the safe opened in San Marco. Lionel stepped forward, voice steady. "Papa's marriage certificate, I sent it to you, monsieur, to prove I wasn't a bastard." Poirot nodded. "You saved the truth." Eliza added, "I pressed the print to protect Aunt Vera. I didn't know about the bomb." Verity wept. "I wanted them free, not orphans of my hate." Poirot turned to Japp. "Charges: Verity murder, terrorism, Carstairs accessory. The children released to the Duchess's custody with oversight." Justice fell like an axe. Epilogue, 1 month later. Poirot and Hastings walked Gilded Square at twilight. The house was sold, the fortune split half to Lionel, half to war widows. San Marco smouldered, but the revolution faltered without its lioness. A final envelope arrived at Baker Street. Inside, a white carnation, pressed flat, and a child's note, "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. The pride rebuilds. San Marco will bloom again." L&E Poirot pinned the carnation to his lapel. "The little grey cells rest, but the heart never." Outside, spring hinted in the air. The square's plane trees budded green. Somewhere, a clock struck the quarter hour.